Howdy, morning, afternoon, wherever you're at. How are you, art historians? We are continuing with our final unit of Module 10, 19th Century Europe Part 3 and Modern Europe Part 1. This is Modern Europe Part 1, 10.04, and we're going to take a look at Expressionism and Fauvism, one of my favorites. I know I say that a lot. I have a lot of favorites. So we've got 8 core works and 5 supplemental works for this unit. Fauvism as a movement is existing from around 1904 to 1910, very short-lived, and of course those numbers are absolutely up for debate by many different art historians. You'll hear lots of different versions of when things begin and start. There's so much constant development and creativity and artistic approach that it can be kind of hard to establish where things are beginning and ending because they are used maybe a little farther than we are remembering. Then we get into Expressionism, which is around 1905 to 1920, and Fauvism is really centered in France, while Expressionism is more in Germany. So, our paintings we have for Fauvism, we have Matisse's Bonheur de Vevey. It is French, and I'm really bad at pronouncing French, so I butchered the crud out of that. My apologies. We also have Matisse's Dance 1. And in Expressionism, we have Edvard Munch's The Scream. We have Van Gogh's Night Cafe, Kirchner's Street, Dresden, Mark's Large Blue Horses, Rodin's Gates of Hell, and Claudel's The Age of Maturity or Destiny. And for our supplemental works, we have Matisse's Open Window, as well as The Red Studio. We have Jolensky's Young Girl in a Flowered Hat, and Schiele's Seated Male Nude, and Kirchner's Street, Berlin. He likes streets. So let's talk a little bit about what it means to be an expressionist or Fauvist artist. So Fauvism in the earliest 20th century very much focused on use of bold color. They love bold, bright neon colors, contrasting colors, garish colors, color explosion for Fauvism, which truly matches me as an individual. I love color. My whole entire home is like basically yellow. I love the color yellow, so I love Fauvism. So the Fauvists are using these really, really bright and vibrant, non-naturalistic colors, and they're doing so to express emotion, sometimes applying a pure unmixed color directly from the tube of paint for these intense effects. And they're prioritizing these emotional expressions over realistic representation, focusing on feeling of a color or shape rather than the accurate details. So a little bit more in the line of what Impressionists were doing. Their work is often featuring simple shapes, bold contours, and emphasis on compositional balance. So they are paying attention to some of those elements and principles like the post-impressionists were doing as well. Artists like Van Gogh and Gauguin are very influential in Fauvism, especially their use of color to convey emotion. And originating in France, Fauvism was very relatively short-lived, but it did have a very significant impact on modern art, and it helped set the stage for later abstract movements because it challenged traditional approaches to color and form, as well as emphasizing art as a vehicle for personal expression. So contrastingly, but also kind of in the same vein, we have Impressionism in the early 20th century that really focused on maybe more inner experiences rather than outward experiences. So still emotional expression, just at different stages. And it is emphasizing the artist's inner emotions, fears, and perceptions, using distorted forms to really convey a sense of, to convey intense feelings, intense colors, and those things are all coming together very strongly. So the actual movement itself is emerging partly as a reaction to the alienation of the industrialization and trauma of World War I, but Expressionism is often conveyed as angst, despair, and critiques of modern society as a whole, not just centered around war and fighting. So Expressionist artists are usually distorting figures and landscapes, and they're manipulating shapes and proportions to try to really reflect these psychological and emotional states. So like the Fauvists, Expressionists are using bold colors, but with darker and more symbolic intentions. And they're aiming to evoke very strong emotional reactions as well. So the movement absolutely originated in Germany, with groups kind of branching off with different, only slightly more specific themes or concepts. We have the Die Brücke, or the bridge, and Der Blaue Reiter, which is the Blue Rider, within its development of the Expressionist movement. And so expressionism is influencing a lot of other later movements, or congruent ones like surrealism, abstract expressionism, and other 20th century movements that are to come, especially through its emphasis on the subjective experience and emotional intensity. So expressionists are seeking to capture internal rather than external, which leads to very powerful and emotionally charged artworks, mirroring the turbulence and uncertainty that artists felt in this early era of the 20th century of Europe. So taking a look again at those pieces, Matisse has always been one of my favorites. There's a very large structure of one of his works at Grounds for Sculpture as well, just like I mentioned with Renoir's. The Scream is definitely a classic one. I had my art history students try to recreate the Scream for Halloween this year, which was really fun. And I've also posted pictures of some of the other works by the artists that you have listed here. So I did include The Burghers of Calais by Rodin. He is an artist that works pretty exclusively in bronze, or at least that's what he pioneered as his specialized medium. And so I wanted to show you another example of his work. That piece is in the Met. We also have some other ones that are really, really interesting in our supplemental works. Egon Schiele is one of my favorite artists. I know I say this about everything, but he's so interesting, and his approach is never seen before and very rarely seen again. He is so unique in the way that he depicts the human body, and I think it's really, really interesting. So please take a look specifically at that example of supplemental art that you should be looking at this week, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Module 10, and we'll touch base again when we move on to next week. So great job, folks. Keep up the awesome work, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye!